Alright guys, in this YouTube video I'm going to be making my men's tournament challenge bracket for the upcoming NCAA 2021 March Madness college basketball, men's college basketball bracket tournament. But yeah, so I'm doing this video on Thursday, March 18th, and I'm doing it at 2 a.m. right now. It's 1:54 a.m. Pacific time, and basically, the March Madness starts today, but today's games were just the first four, which you can see here, like Norfolk. It says Norfolk State, but it's NORF / I think Appalachian State made it this year. But yeah, so the reason why there's a slash is like they made it, but not really. They made it. But they're in like a playing game essentially. So the playing games are today, which is what they call the first four, and then on the 19th, as you can see here, on the round of 64, and the 20th is when this game and the other games that have that little slash on it, that like there again. So all the like most of the teams will play the 19th and 20th. I don't know if you followed all that. I'm not the best, and I don't think I described that as well as I had planned in my head, but hopefully you got the gist of it. So yeah, basically I'm gonna be filming my picks for the tournament. I think fairly in the past I've done pretty good. I think I do better than the average usually. I'm not like some like crazy guy with stats, but I do follow college basketball a bit. I wouldn't say I watch like most games, but I do start paying attention around like conference tournament time, and then I kind of do my deep dive into stats and research like a few weeks or two before the tournament actually starts. So I think I have some pretty good educated guesses. But yeah, I know that Gonzaga has been talked about pretty much all year. They have a pretty strong team, as they do pretty much every year, and I think it just comes down to coaching, because they don't really have top recruits often. They did have like Rui Hachimura. What was it, 2 years ago, basically, or last year, 2 years ago, something like that. But yeah, uh, 2 years ago. But yeah, Rui Hachimura. He was like picked 8th overall, I think, by the Wizards. But like that usually doesn't happen a lot for Gonzaga for them to have a top 10 pick. But yeah, it's a shoe in right there, Gonzaga. If you look at like, if you're gonna go deep dive into like analytics, which I know is pretty popular in today's game, Gonzaga is just atop the board across every like pretty major stat team to look out for in the tournament. I saw a crazy stat on ESPN, I believe. I was watching it on the Selection Sunday. I forget what channel that was on, but they mentioned that the 9th seed beats the 8th seed, and more often than not in the history of the tournament. But that being said, I'm not just going to pick 9 over 8 every time, as you can tell, or if you don't know already. There's 4 of every seed you see. So for instance, there's 4 1 overall. There's 4 1 seeds, 4 2 seeds, 4 3 seeds, and so on all the way to 16. So I'm not going to just pick 9 over 8 every time, but in this case, I'm going to pick Oklahoma over Missouri. I don't know a lot about these two teams, but I do know that Big 12 has been one of the more competitive conferences this year. I'd say second as far as competitiveness this year after the Big 10. Big 10 has been really strong this year, and those who picked the rankings have really favored those teams. So yeah, there's more Big 10 teams in this tournament this year than any other conference. They're the most represented conference, in other words. But yeah, so SEC I haven't heard a lot about. The teams in the SEC, and to say the least. I've heard like virtually nothing about Missouri. Creighton, they're in the Big East. And UCSB. I heard a lot of people talking about UCSB being a sleeper. I feel like every year they kind of say that just to gain attention. I have picked multiple brackets, and I'm pretty split on these two teams just because I don't know. I listened to them somewhat a little bit, so I figure like, hey, if there is an upset, maybe they might be right. UCSB might be a sleeper after all. But this one I'm gonna go Creighton. They've been kind of sloppy this year, but all in all, I think COVID affected everything else, so I don't think they'll struggle with UCSB. All right, Virginia, Ohio. So Virginia's a 4 seed, but if you'll remember, so last year's tournament got canceled because it was right around when COVID first making headlines all over the world, so they weren't really sure about the whole tournament being a good idea. But basically, they're the defending champ because if you go back 2 years ago when we did have a tournament, Virginia won it. So although, it's been 2 years since that championship team, they're still going to have some players on the roster who have that championship pedigree. Again, it's been a while since they've been in this highly competitive, championship aspiration atmosphere, but I'm going to go pick Virginia over Ohio. USC Wichita State versus Drake. This one I've had a hard time with, just because I know Wichita State is such a big Cinderella upset, kind of like, I don't know. I feel like they always step it up in the tournament. People sleep on them every year, and they make people pay for that. And Drake, I know, because I've never heard of Drake, but I know this year they were in the top 25 ranking, which is pretty good. But they did fall off toward the end of their season. But, however, I know that their star player, I believe I heard, missed their last 9 games, but he's set to come back into the tournament. And I just learned this like 30 minutes ago. Wish I knew that information before I was picking my brackets. But that being said, whoever wins this game, which is tomorrow, or today rather, it's later on today, whoever wins the Wichita State Drake game plays USC. And USC, they didn't make it to the Pac-12 championship, but they seem to be the top Pac-12 team all year. Pretty sure they won the Pac-12 regular season, and they have one of the top recruits in the country for the NBA draft, Evan Mobley, who's a tall and athletic big man. So, with all that being said, I told you this one is a little tricky one. With all that being said, I think Wichita State and Drake, whoever comes out of that game, is going to be super and highly competitive. And I think they might give USC a run for their money, just because having a dominant big doesn't necessarily mean, to say the least, having a dominant like guard is like bigger in a tournament, I would say, than having a dominant big. So I'm going to say Wichita State versus Drake, whoever that may be, over USC. All right, so Kansas over East Washington. I'm going to go Blue Blood. Oregon VCU, don't know a lot. I know Oregon was pretty good this year. And VCU, don't know much about them. Haven't followed them a lot ever since like Shaka Smart left them. And now he coaches Texas. He's one of my favorite coaches. But this one I'm just going to play favorites and pick 7 over 10. Iowa, they have Luka Garza, again, one of the top prospects in the country. You really have to respect his game, and Iowa has made it an emphasis on their offense to sort of go with the potential double team opponents will have on him, and they work plays off of like back cuts and whatnot to get some of the shooters open, because they think defenses are going to pay more attention on Garza. Whoa, okay. Let me catch my breath real quick. All right. Michigan, I think it's Mount St. Mary's. I don't know. MSM, not sure. And then Texas Southern. I'm going to pick Michigan, coached by Juwan Howard, former member of the Fab Five. LSU St. Bonaventure. I'm going to go St. Bonaventure. Some guys on the show I was watching on Selection Sunday were talking about the Bonnies being a sleeper pick. And again, it's a 9/8 team. And the 9th seed, as I mentioned earlier, beats 8 teams more often than not. And LSU, they seemed a little sloppy in their SEC championship game. Couldn't really make a shot, it seemed. Although they have been noted to have some really big shooters on their team. And I know they play a lot of ISO game, which it's cool for AAU games, but like it's a team game after all. So I could see St. Bonaventure winning that one. Colorado Georgetown. Georgetown's coached by Patrick Ewing. You may know him by being one of the best Knicks of all time in the NBA. I'm going to go Colorado in this one. Colorado also is known to have, they lost in the Pac-12 championship against Oregon State, who was a big Cinderella team in the Pac-12 tournament. But Colorado, they have, I think they either set the record or they're like top 5 in best free throw percentage seasons in college basketball, which is pretty impressive. So that means they're able to get to the line. Actually, it doesn't mean they get the line, but nevertheless, they are a good free throw shooting team, which can be pretty important, whether they're down buckets or up buckets. You know that if they're going to the charity strike, it's pretty automatic. Florida State, they got Scotty Barnes and some good athletic prospects. I haven't heard anything from UNC Greensboro. So yeah, I think that was an easy one for the Seminoles there. BYU, Michigan State, UCLA. I haven't heard a lot about BYU. Pretty sure they came second, meaning they lost what are they in? The Western Conference? Is that the thing? Whatever Gonzaga's in. I forget what they're in. Is it the WAC? I don't remember. Anyway, they lost to Gonzaga, I'm pretty sure, in their conference championship. But it's Michigan State, UCLA, 2 historic and storied programs when it comes to college hoops. And one's coached by Tom Izzo, who's in the Hall of Fame already as a college basketball coach. So I think just these 2 programs and coaching aside are enough, whoever wins this game, to beat BYU. So I'm going to pick another first 4 team to advance, I believe, right? Yeah. Which I think it does not happen often. I think it's very rare. But hey, it's been a pretty crazy year and a half, so who knows? Anything could happen. All right, Texas Abilene Christian. Texas, I have Texas going pretty far. I think they're one of the older teams in the tournament, and top to bottom, I think they have tremendous talent. UConn, Maryland, again, don't know much about either team, but UConn in March, you can't really bet against them. Alabama, Iona coached by Rick Pitino, who's another legendary coach in basketball, in the basketball world. Alabama has tremendous talent. They have some, I forget the guard, but he's a pretty good baller. So yeah, I don't see Iona pulling off an upset there. Although I'm sure Pitino is hopeful, and I mean Pitino is a great coach, so he's gonna get the most out of his talent in Iona. But still, I think Alabama wins it. Baylor Hartford. Baylor 1/16. It's only happened once, so you might as well just chalk up a 1/16 every time. North Carolina, Wisconsin. Again, I haven't heard of either team. Pretty sure North Carolina has had a better second half of their season than our first half of their season. However, Wisconsin is in the Big Ten, and the Big Ten's been the best conference this year. So a 9 ranking might just be because they played in a competitive conference, a hard conference, tough conference. So in this case, I'm pretty torn between both teams. I've already picked an 8/9, and then I picked a 9/8. So this time we're going to pick a 9 over an 8 again. Villanova Winthrop. Well, Villanova, I think they've won 2 in the last 5 years. So again, it's got to be good coaching. So I'm going to go Villanova there. Purdue, North Texas. Going to go Purdue. Haven't heard anything about North Texas. Texas Tech, Utah State. I know Texas Tech has the Georgetown transfer, Mac McClung, who should be in the NBA at some point, most likely. And then Utah State, they lost in the Mountain West Conference Championship to SDSU. And I heard that they are the only team. This is a crazy stat. They're the only team in the tournament this year to be top 20 in defensive rebounding and offensive rebounding. And them being at the 11th seed, even though they lost their conference championship, I think they're a big sleeper that aren't spoken enough about. Arkansas Colgate. So now this game was a game that was really talked about on Selection Sunday. They're saying Arkansas may be a 3 seed, but Colgate may be the most conditioned team and is going to run up and down the court on Arkansas. That's something they said a lot. I don't know if I'm going to buy all that hype, because I mean, a 3 versus 14. Again, these rankings do not matter. Every year there's a Cinderella team, but it's tempting to say 3 over 14. It's like, come on, how often does a 1 beat a 16? Not often. For that big of an upset, it's pretty rare. I'm going to go Arkansas. All right, Florida, Virginia Tech. Again, these 7-10 games, they're pretty. I swear, 7 and 10 games are like teams I don't even know anything about. I'm not sure why, but nevertheless, ACC has been pretty trash this year. Just look at how bad Duke was. They even make it. So I'm going to go Florida. Ohio State, Oral Roberts. I am an Ohio State fan, so I'm going to go Ohio State. I don't think Oral Roberts, which I haven't heard like virtually nothing about, is going to pull off a big upset there. Illinois Drexel. Illinois is one of the most complete teams in my opinion. They were able to win the Big Ten Conference against Ohio State. So that's saying something for them to win in the arguably toughest conference this year. Means a lot. Loyola Chicago, Georgia Tech. This game, I'm going to pick Georgia Tech. I know Loyola Chicago has been in the tournament pretty often the last few years. They made a pretty good run 3 years ago. They made headlines because they had their not on the sideline, but Alvarado and Georgia Tech, one of their guards, Defensive Player of the Year in the ACC. And Georgia Tech won the ACC tournament. He's just a lockdown defender that, I mean, I watched a little bit of Georgia Tech, but it seemed like he really came up in clutch games. So imagine him to kind of ride off of that defensive high he's on. So I think they're gonna go pretty far, but playing Illinois maybe not that far enough. Tennessee, Oregon State. Oregon State won the Pac-12 championship. Everyone's talking about Tennessee being a sleeper team, even though they're number 5. But they're saying how complete they are, yada yada. So I'm gonna go Tennessee. Oklahoma State, Liberty. Oklahoma State has one of the top recruits in the country, with Cade Cunningham, who could potentially go first overall in the NBA draft if team's looking for a tall point guard. SDSU, Syracuse. Haven't heard anything really about Syracuse this year, and I think like a lot of people were shocked they got in. SDSU, me being from San Diego and following the state school a little bit, I know they're pretty good. And last year and 2 years ago, they looked really strong too. I think this is the year that they're going to make a good run. West Virginia over Morehead State. I think West Virginia is going to win. Bobby Hurley, he's a great coach. If he's not in the Hall of Fame already, he probably will be soon. I think he'll easily have his way with Morehead State. Clemson, Rutgers. I swear, 7 and 10 games I know nothing about. But that being said, I know I've seen some Rutgers games and they look like a pretty competitive team. And again, they're in the Big Ten, competitive conference. I imagine they're going to have the competitive edge over Clemson, the ACC, which seemed this year like a lackluster conference. And then Houston, Cleveland State to round it off. I'm going to go Houston. Again, don't know anything about that matchup, but 2 versus 15, hard to argue against. All right, let's take a breath. 20 minutes into the video, and we just got out of one round. All right, now this is where we pick the teams that go from the round of 32 to the Sweet 16. This is where Cinderella stories are made. Who's going to be able to do that this year? Gonzaga, Oklahoma. Think Gonzaga. Again, number 1 overall seed. Playing an Oklahoma team that I didn't really hear nothing great about in the Big 12. Creighton, Virginia. I'm going to go pick Virginia. This is toss up. I'm going the upset. Creighton. F it. All right, Wichita, Drake versus Kansas. Again, I'm going to go higher seed there. Kansas. Oregon, Iowa. I don't like Oregon. I don't know why. Sorry, people from Oregon. But even in football, I root against you guys. Against Luka Garza. I'm going to go Iowa. Yeah, I'm going to go Iowa. All right, Michigan, St. Bonaventure. I'm going Michigan. Colorado, Florida State. Going FSU. Michigan State, Texas. I'm going Texas. And then UConn, Alabama. I'm going Bama. Baylor, Wisconsin. Going Baylor. No real reason. I know Baylor was pretty much number 2 all year behind Gonzaga. So I know they're a pretty good team. So again, I mentioned earlier, I don't know much about Wisconsin, but I gave them the edge over North Carolina just because they're in the Big Ten. So, but still, I think Baylor's going to be able to pull it off. Villanova, Purdue. I'm going to go... Again, another Big Ten team I never really heard much about was Purdue. And I'm pretty sure they weren't great the first half of the year. Because I remember following Ohio State a little bit, seeing they lost to Purdue, and thinking that was a bad loss. So I'm actually kind of surprised to see them in the tournament now. All right, I'm going to pick Villanova there. Utah State, Arkansas. I'm going to pick Utah State. Because Arkansas, I was pretty on the fence about just because they were playing Colgate, which a lot of people picked as a upset team. So even though I picked Arkansas, there's a reason they said this is a potential watch game because they aren't confident in Arkansas's play. And this one, Ohio State, I think they're a little overrated in my opinion, as much as I am an Ohio State fan. I think they will beat Florida. All right. Illinois, Georgia Tech. Although Alvarado has great defense, in basketball, defense doesn't usually win championships. You need a lot of scoring power, and I think Illinois has that. They have height as well, and just sheer athleticism over Georgia Tech, so I'm going to give them the edge there. Tennessee, Oklahoma State. Cade Cunningham is clutch. He averages like 6 points in the first half, but 17 in the second half. People were talking about Tennessee being such a complete team, a real championship contender this year. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to go Oklahoma State in that one. SDSU, West Virginia. That's going to be a tough game just because I have connections to both schools. Me being from San Diego, and I'm actually a West Virginia student right now. Shout out Mountaineers. But it's the inner kid in me to root for SDSU. So I'm going SDSU. Rutgers, Houston, going for the top seed there. 2 versus 10. Can't argue with that. Gonzaga, Creighton. Going Gonzaga. Iowa, Kansas. I'm going to go Iowa. Tough call, but yeah, I'm going to go Iowa there. All right, Michigan, Florida State. We're going to go Michigan. I think they're a really good team this year. I don't think it's all just Juwan Howard. I think Michigan's always slept on in the tournament. They go pretty far. Even though I'm an Ohio State fan, as much as that hates me to say all this about Michigan, I think they will go pretty far. I know going to the Elite Eight is pretty far, but I think they could potentially make it to the tournament, if not win it, or make it to the Final Four, if not win it all. All right, so Texas, Alabama. I think Texas is a more complete team. Seems like they're older. They have a lot of seniors on their senior leaders on their team. So I'm going Texas over Alabama. And Texas, didn't mention earlier, but they won the Big 12 championship, second most competitive conference this year. And Alabama won the SEC championship, which was like maybe third most competitive this year. Anyway, but yeah, I picked Texas over Alabama. Baylor, Villanova, picking Baylor. Actually, I'm going to pick Villanova. Villanova's great coaching. Again, they've won championships like 2 of the past 5 years. They got a winning formula. So I'm going Villanova there. Utah State, Ohio State. I think this is going to be the end of the run for Utah State, the Cinderella I got going this year. So we're going to go Ohio State. Illinois, Oklahoma State. Although Cade Cunningham is clutch, for his team to make it all the way to the Sweet 16 is pretty sweet in itself. But I'm going to go Illinois. SDSU, Houston. I'm going to go State. San Diego State. Gonzaga, Iowa. I'm going to go... Although Luka Garza is good, he's not enough just to take his team all the way. I'm going to go Gonzaga. Michigan, Texas. I made like 3 brackets, I think, so far. And every bracket, I think this is going to be one of the most competitive games this year. Michigan, Texas. I have high aspirations, or high expectations, I should say, for both of these teams. I think they're well coached and have potential, like tremendous talent. So I'm gonna go. This one, we're gonna go Texas. Yep, we're gonna go Texas. I think Jericho Sims is one of the best bigs in the league this year. He's pretty dominant whenever he plays. So yeah, we're gonna go Texas. Villanova, Ohio State. Sorry, Buckeye fans and myself for doing this. Gonna go Villanova. Illinois, San Diego State. Sorry, inner kid in me, but I'm gonna go Illinois. All right, so we got our Final Four down. So we got Gonzaga and Texas, and Villanova and Illinois. So 2 1 seeds, 3 and a 5. All right, here we go. Gonzaga, Texas. Gonna go Gonzaga. And Villanova, Illinois. Gonna go Illinois. National championship, we have Gonzaga facing off against Illinois. 2 number 1s. I'm gonna go Illinois. Taking it this year. Winners of the Big Ten and winners of the national championship. All right, final score. I don't know why they do this. I don't think it really matters much. But I'm going to say 75. I'll say it's a buzzer beater. I'll say it's 75-74. All right, there you have it. That's my national champion. Illinois Fighting Illini. We'll see what happens starting today. I'll release this video maybe before April 5th. Not sure. We're going to release it right away. We'll see. But I might revisit this later and laugh at myself for being super wrong, but we'll see. All right, that's it for me. We'll see how this year's NCAA bracket goes. As always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.